Now, consumers in New Zealand's main markets have slowed down, whether they liked it or not, of course, because of lockdowns around the world, but they have gotten closer to nature. And according to one survey, finally realised that New Zealand and Australia are indeed two different countries. And you'd like to say cricket teams too, after how it's been going. New Zealand Stories director Rebecca Smith joins us now on Serious Country to discuss the latest New Zealand Global Perception Survey run by the New Zealand Story and Export New Zealand. Welcome to Serious Country, Rebecca. I really appreciate your time to unpack this. We did have a discussion around that as you were going through the various different countries, but have we got to a bit of a collective survey and general feeling across how people think of New Zealand?
Absolutely. So we've been able to sum all of that up, and we've had some other research and insights come through over the last few months as well that have given us a really interesting picture about how our tackling of COVID has impacted perceptions of New Zealand. And whilst it's a horrific thing that everyone is going through, we've had an unlikely positive uptick for New Zealand because of the way that we've been handling it. And it has had an impact on how consumers view our food, our beverage, our primary sector, and other things that we have to offer.
We highlighted a few things there, which is positive. They finally know that New Zealand is a separate country, not a state of Australia, which is fantastic. But we have talked on the show a lot about the rise of national protectionism within our markets, and that being a risk and a threat to New Zealand. Not so much, or...
No, you're right. There are definitely some changing consumer behaviours that we're seeing. So people are, just as we are here in New Zealand, buying more local, being very conscious of supporting their local businesses, their local producers. So that's happening all around the world. And that's really changing how people are consuming, the choices they're making in terms of buying. And that's a potential risk for New Zealand. So what we have to do is really differentiate and make sure that we stay prominent on those shelves and in those markets, because their choices are local and their belts are tightening. They don't have as much money to spend often. In many countries, they're suffering more than we have economically. So we've got a job to do to remain front of mind.
In front of mind are COVID messages such as the team of 5 million and go hard, go early came through in the survey. Whether you're a personal fan of our Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern here in New Zealand or not, the fact that she's seen as a compassionate, young, positive female with leadership skills has really transformed us away from the Lord of the Rings stigma, hasn't it?
It has. It's really put us on the world map. And as you say, whether you agree or disagree, what we do know is that New Zealand has now, we've got the eyes of the world on us. People now know where we are, roughly. They know that we're not the same as Australia. They can distinguish us. And they can see that we're a forward-thinking, contemporary, more independent country than they might have given us credit for in the past. So we've definitely shifted from being a beautiful, natural place with not much going on to an interesting country that they're looking for inspiration and also just a little bit of hope.
How do we tell our story when our marketers can't be in market?
Yeah, good question. We have to get a lot more inventive in terms of the way that we're delivering our stories digitally. Now is the time to invest in some of those areas that we may not have felt were important before, or we just had it on the back burner. So, making sure that our social media channels are really well run. Putting some of that delicate travel budget into marketing promotion in market, supporting our distributors, supporting our retailers, and putting things into their hands that help them to market our products more effectively, and getting really good at Zoom and getting really good at pitching with not much time. So it's honing those skills.
I have learned a lot since doing this show for the last nearly coming up 12 months, Rebecca, in the global reach of everything that we do now in media, and as our rural broadcasters, the way we internally talk to each other within our market, we have to take that responsibility, that message is going global as well. So yeah, it's but what a great opportunity as well that we've got that global reach.
It is, and we don't want to be opportunistic with this. And yet we have an opportunity to leverage this very positive position that we have in the world. People do see New Zealand as a beacon, as a country that does things differently. We've trusted, we've got integrity, we're taking care of people, and all of that adds to the sense that whatever they're purchasing from us in the world of food and beverage contributes to their well-being. It contributes to being good for them. And that's a positive for our food providers.
It's interesting because we speak on the show a lot to the likes of our velvet producers, our honey producers, a lot of foods that have some fantastic immunity-based properties and can really leverage on that time that we're in as well. How do we take our story of production from beyond just being lovely people?
Oh, that's a really good point, because people generally do think we're quite nice and we're not terribly threatening, and we're very warm and welcoming, but we've got to get further than that and explain why is it better for you, really getting under the skin of those consumer insights, and why is it different. And that's what consumers are going to make their choices based on. Can I get it here in my own country? Is it something that I could substitute here locally? Or is this something that I can't get anywhere else can't get here? What is different about it? Why is it better? How is it going to make me stronger, faster, brighter, healthier? So all of those benefits we really need to dial up at a time like this and focus on what's different. Why should they care?
The rise of filmmaking in New Zealand is something I watch closely because I see it as a huge opportunity for us to tell the New Zealand way of life, because when you're consuming a product from another country, you're effectively consuming the culture and the lifestyle of that country. Is there more work that we can be doing in the synergies between our silver screen and our food and beverage?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got an incredibly creative sector here, and they're available. And bar the occasional lockdown that we have at the moment, we're one of the few countries that can continue to produce and to market ourselves really actively and get on screen and get good content out. So we've got to take advantage of that opportunity. We've got amazing creative people. It doesn't actually cost the earth. The research that we did last year, we did it all via Zoom. We've done recordings via Zoom. It's amazing what you can achieve if you've got to. And I think New Zealanders are really, really good at solving problems and coming up with new ways of doing things. And now's the time to do that.
How do we market it to get that tone right so we are being respectful to the rest of the world situation as opposed to rubbing it in their noses?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to be quite mindful that other people are going through really traumatic challenges. We've got children who've been back at school. Other people have had kids who've been at home homeschooling for a whole year and haven't been back to school. So that's a really difficult situation for people to be in. So we do have to be very mindful of that in terms of getting that tone right, focusing on what it will do to help them. Really honing in on what we're here to do that can help them, help their family, and improve the situation that we're in. We definitely don't want to talk up, look at us, we're COVID-free, because we're not, and we never, we can never promise that. So we do have to be a bit careful about that whole safety piece and not play on it too much, but just talk about the benefits for customers and consumers.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. What is the next stage in continuing to monitor perception of and your role with New Zealand Story?
Well, this research that we did and that we've talked about today, we did in June last year to try and understand what was changing during COVID so we could really make sure that all our messaging internationally was tailored and relevant. What we need to do now is touch base again with those consumers and find out what's shifted again. How are things changing? Because it is just changing so rapidly. We have to keep on top of that. And then I can come back and talk to you about the new set of insights and any more tweaks and changes we need to make to the way that we're all telling our stories and all marketing ourselves internationally.
It's very valuable insights collectively created with the work you do, so all our exporters don't have to do that consumer insights individually. So thank you so much, Rebecca Smith there from the New Zealand Story, the Director of New Zealand Story. And of course, there's more information on that head along online, and you can find the work that the New Zealand Global Perception Survey have done, and of course great work to Export New Zealand and keeping us forefront in terms of our decisions moving forward.